Good evening. On behalf of the Jefferson County Growth Association and Jefferson College, welcome to our second of two legislative forums. My name is Dr. Ray Comiskey, President of Jefferson College and moderator for tonight's event. I'm pleased to see so many folks in our hall tonight. We're coming to you from the campus of Jefferson College, and in addition to our live audience, you can hear us over KJEF Radio and its associated web resources, mymoinfo.com, TuneIn Radio, or the iHeartRadio app. Or watch us on JCTV and through the college's social media channels on Facebook, YouTube, and Vimeo. Before we begin our program, I'd like to take a moment and thank the folks behind the scene who have made this event possible. Start, of course, with the Jefferson County Growth Association and Board President Dan Govero, our timekeeper tonight, Board Member Lisa Wigger, and my assistant at the college, Lisa Vineyard, the staff at JCTV and KJEF Radio, and finally, you, our audience, who are either here in person or taking the time to watch or listen to this broadcast. Thank you very much. Of course, we wouldn't be able to do this without the financial support of some of the great organizations around Jefferson County. I'd like to take a moment and recognize our sponsors for this evening. Our gold sponsor is Dobbs Tire and Auto. Silver sponsors are Govero Land Services and Comtree. And our forum sponsors are Enterprise Bank, Fireworks City, and Lane Consolidated Services. I also want to take a moment and thank our candidates, first for participating tonight in this forum, and second for putting yourself out there to better Jefferson County, the state of Missouri, and the United States. Let's give them a round of applause. The Jefferson County Growth Association is a broad community of citizens and business leaders throughout the county, united in an effort to support our financial stability and economic prosperity. Our mission is to provide coordination of professional leadership to promote and support new and existing growth throughout Jefferson County. JCGA recognizes that our democracy depends upon an informed and engaged citizenry to participate in our democratic process. While JCGA does not endorse specific candidates or parties, the organization does support the legislative process by providing public events such as these candidate forums. Our purpose here tonight is to provide an opportunity to hear Democrat and Republican candidates address issues facing the citizens of Jefferson County. Our format tonight is a simple one. We are focusing largely on state and national offices. We do have a couple of others mixed in because of their schedule. At our first forum, we discussed candidates for countywide offices. Candidates tonight will have 7 minutes to explain why they are, who they are, and what they will do if elected. If a candidate is represented by a representative, that individual will be given up to 3 minutes to speak. While no questions are to be taken during our event tonight, candidates are encouraged to stay after the forum to talk with audience members. The order of offices was predetermined, and a coin flip was used to see which party goes first. The order from there is alternated throughout the night. We ask each candidate to respect the time limit. We have a timekeeper who will give you a 3, a 1, and a 30-second warning, plus the dreaded stop card if you run out of time. So let's begin our forum. Our first office tonight is that of U.S. Senator. Tonight we have representing Claire McCaskill, a representative named David Kirby. But here's information about Senator McCaskill. A lifelong resident of Missouri, Senator McCaskill was first elected to the Missouri State Legislature in 1982. She became the first woman elected Jackson County prosecutor in 1992, and in 1998, Senator McCaskill was elected Missouri State Auditor. In 2006, she became the first and only woman elected to the Senate from Missouri, winning a seat once held by Harry Truman. Representing Senator Claire McCaskill, Mr. David Kirby.
Thank you. I'm David Kirby. I'm Claire's campaign manager, and she regrets that she can't be here this evening. She's in Washington with her duties there in the United States Senate. But thank you to Jefferson County Growth Association for hosting this and Jefferson County College for hosting this, and thank you all for being here. The difference in this election could not be more clear. Claire McCaskill is the one in this race who's been fighting for Missourians. She's fighting to protect Missourians' health care. She's the only candidate in this race that supports covering those with pre-existing conditions, and she's fought for that year in and year out in the United States Senate. In fact, Josh Hawley, Senator McCaskill's opponent, has used taxpayer money to go to court to file a lawsuit to do away with coverage for pre-existing conditions, health insurance coverage for Missourians. In fact, 2.5 million Missourians could be in jeopardy of losing their health care coverage if that lawsuit is successful. Secondly, Claire McCaskill is the only candidate in this race who's been fighting for workers' rights her entire career. She's the only candidate that opposes right to work. She voted no on Prop A. Josh Hawley supported Prop A. He supported right to work. In fact, his race for Attorney General was single-handedly funded by a large donor who bankrolled right to work. Secondly, she's the only candidate in this race who supports raising the minimum wage. She supports that effort and will be voting yes on the ballot initiative on November 6th. Josh Hawley opposes raising the minimum wage. Also, Claire's the only candidate who has a record and is fighting to secure our borders. She's been endorsed by the National Border Patrol Council. That's the union that is the group of Border Patrol agents represented in this country. And she's the one that's been fighting for funding for more border security, technology. She's also the only candidate in this race that travels the state, shows up, answers any question from voters, from the media. She's held over 50 town halls in a year. She's traveled to all parts of the state. She's somebody who works in a bipartisan manner to get things done, whether it's with Republicans here in Missouri or Republicans in DC. And she's also the only one in this race who has been consistently of Missouri her entire career. She grew up here, she was educated here, she lives here, her and her family all live here as well. So thank you for the time to be able to convey Senator McCaskill's positions. We appreciate you hosting this debate. Have a good evening.
Thank you, David. The Republican candidate for U.S. Senator is Josh Hawley. Tonight he's represented by Mr. Bruce Stahl. Mr. Hawley was elected to Missouri Attorney General in November 2016. Prior to being elected to office, Mr. Hawley was an associate professor at the University of Missouri Law School, where he taught constitutional law, constitutional theory, legislation, and torts. Prior to this, he worked as an appellate litigator in Washington, D.C. Mr. Hawley is a constitutional lawyer and a recognized national expert on the Constitution. He has litigated in the Supreme Court of the United States, most of the federal courts of appeals, federal district courts, and state courts across the country. Please welcome candidate Josh Hawley, Mr. Bruce Stahl.
As you've heard, my name is Bruce Stahl, and my family and I came from New Jersey to Missouri 11 years ago. And I'm going to keep this short. President Donald Trump came to Missouri recently to endorse the next U.S. Senator from Missouri, Josh Hawley. A couple months ago, Vice President Mike Pence came to Missouri to endorse Josh Hawley. And of course, Senator Roy Blunt has endorsed Josh Hawley. Most importantly, Josh Hawley is for the nomination of Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. I don't want to say anything bad about Josh Hawley's opponent. I will say this: Claire McCaskill represents the values of the people of New Jersey. Josh Hawley represents the values of the people of Missouri. Thank you.
All right, we move now to the United States House of Representatives District 3 race, and with us tonight is Democratic candidate Katie Geppert. Ms. Geppert has utilized her chemistry degree to work in the environmental testing and health nutrition sectors of the technology industry in both quality and research roles. She has volunteered with Alpha Omicron Pi since 2009 as an advisor for 2 collegiate chapters. As an advisor, she has mentored hundreds of young women when it comes to leadership, organization, and conflict resolution. Please welcome Katie Geppert.
Thank you to the Jefferson County Growth Association and Jefferson College for hosting this event tonight, and thank you all for attending. I'm Katie Geppert, and I'm running for U.S. Congress in the 3rd Congressional District because I see opportunity for positive change in this district, and I want to be part of that positive change. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a wife and a mother. I have 2 young daughters, and they are a big reason why I'm in this fight. I know that our district and our nation can do a lot better than what we're doing right now. In terms of my career, I have a STEM background. I'm a research chemist. While working full-time, I earned my master's degree from St. Louis University, and I'm also a certified Six Sigma Green Belt and have training in root cause failure analysis. For those of you not familiar with the last 2 terms, they're just fancy ways of saying that I'm trained in method development, problem solving, and troubleshooting. Overall, I've been working as a scientist for 14 plus years, where it's been my job to literally troubleshoot and solve problems, big and small, every day. I know that I have the skills to create positive, effective change, and I plan on doing so in Washington. One opportunity for positive change is in healthcare. I believe everyone has a right to quality, affordable healthcare, no matter where they live or what they do. Quality, affordable healthcare must also include coverage for addiction and mental health issues. As a child of an addict, I know how important quality treatment programs are. And sadly, what happens when the person who needs the treatment doesn't receive it. That's why I'm committed to making sure addiction and mental health coverage are part of the changes to our healthcare system. Specifically, I will work with neighboring counties and districts to help combat the opioid crisis and improve healthcare in our more rural and isolated areas. Another opportunity, actually it's more than an opportunity, I consider it a moral imperative, is improving our public schools. I believe that public schools are one of the great equalizers of our society. It shouldn't matter if your parent is a minimum wage worker or earns a CEO's salary. You should have the opportunity to attain a quality, free public education so that you can create the life you deserve. Right now, this is not happening, and especially in the 3rd District. At last check, we have 4 school districts in this district that are open just 4 days a week because they cannot afford to run the buses or keep the lights on for 5 days a week. This is appalling, and this is not a long-term solution to underfunding. It is at best a Band-Aid. In the long term, this quick fix approach will hurt more than it'll help. And I think there is opportunity at the federal level to help these districts get the funding that they need. And I'm committed to fighting for that funding on behalf of the 3rd District. Another opportunity for positive change is working to ensure we have a productive and busy workforce. Currently, about 24% of Jefferson County residents between the ages of 20 and 29 are either unemployed or not in the workforce. We need to update our labor laws to reflect the needs of everyone who can and wants to work. This includes paid family leave for both mothers and fathers, and better protections for part-time and contract workers. One way we can help our union, we also must support our unions as they are key to a thriving middle class. One way we can help our union workers is to put them back to work with a comprehensive infrastructure bill. If we are on the metaphorical road to increasing the country's manufacturing output, our actual roads need to be able to transport those goods from point A to point B. In closing, the opportunities for positive change are out there. We know them. We can name them. And now we have the opportunity to reform our healthcare system to serve all, including fighting the opioid and addiction crises with mental health services. We have the opportunity to improve our public school system to ensure that every child has access to a quality education. And finally, we have the opportunity to update our labor laws to ensure greater opportunities for workers and families. Thank you again to our hosts for this forum tonight, and thank you for those who have taken the time to listen to me and my fellow candidates. I look forward to hearing your concerns and taking your questions. Thank you.
Our next race is the U.S. House of Representatives, District 8. Tonight we have the Democratic candidate with us, Kathy Ellis. A resident of Festus, Ms. Ellis is a licensed clinical social worker and addictions counselor for over 30 years, including work with the juvenile court systems, a woman's halfway house where she served as director, and work in addiction treatment facilities. Ms. Ellis has served as a board member of the Community Mental Health Center, as well as on the foundation board for domestic violence. Please welcome Kathy Ellis.
Well, I'm really glad to be here tonight. And I want to thank everybody that has been instrumental in allowing this to happen. You know, this is the most important process that we can engage in our lifetimes. The idea that we have the ability to vote our elected officials into office is a rare and precious thing. And one of the things that I am very, very concerned about is making sure that everyone has the ability to vote without any way that they can be stopped or that that voting process is hindered. I think it's a sacred mission, and we need to begin to take it seriously. Yeah, I've been a social worker all of my career. I sometimes feel like I've been a social worker all of my life, because even when I was a little kid, people were coming to me and saying, hey, I got a problem. And so that's one of the things that I believe that is a skill set that I will take into Congress. I am very intent upon working through problems. And what I discovered after some soul searching about what I was going to do next with my life and my career, I'm appalled at the problems that are existent in the 8th Congressional District. Now, we are in a very small portion of that. And we are a district that covers everything to the Boot Heel, everything all the way over across to almost Springfield, up to Rolla, and then back through DeSoto and Hillsborough. It's an enormous district with enormous problems. It's also a district with wonderful people who want something different in their lives. So when I started to go out to talk to people back in March of 2017, I started doing town halls. I've done hundreds of town halls and had hundreds of conversations with people throughout the district. I put 47,000 miles on my once new car, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Because what I've found is these are people that want change, but somehow cannot find the means to do it. Government is at its finest when it gives people the handout that they need and the step up that they need in order to move forward on their own 2 feet. And so I am committed, like Katie, to 3 things. Now, I believe that a public servant has a sacred duty to the constituents to do what they want, not what we want. I had a gentleman come up to me the other day and he said, now what are you going to do if 64% of the people in our district say they want to legalize marijuana? I have some concerns about that as an addictions counselor. But I said, I'm not going to determine that myself. I'm going to do what my district wants. We have to be servants to the people. We are not the ones that need to make the decisions for everyone. It is a sacred duty. And as such, when I went out and I started talking to people, the same things started to come up. Health care. I asked people, what keeps you up at night? My health care. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to afford my medicine. So I might have to choose between food and medicine. I'm afraid my child, who is a special needs child, is not going to get the services that he or she needs. I'm afraid. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to step up and provide Medicare for all. We have the resources to do it. We need to be able to negotiate pharmaceuticals, and we need to negotiate our services. It needs to be available to everyone. In the same manner that Katie talked about school, public school education is one of the most incredible things that we have in this country. It is the great equalizer. But if you take what's happening now in Washington to the different counties in our district, and you try to put vouchers in, and you try to put charter schools in, and you give people the option of having online education, you will have an uneducated populace. That's the way it is. So we have to be very careful. We want to give those resources to the schools. We want to give them everything they need to thrive. And we want to protect our teachers and their salaries and their pensions. That is vital, to have that front line of people who are totally concerned with their children. In the same manner, when we're talking about college educations, we don't want our children to grow up with terminal debt because of their college educations. They need to find a way out. I think that way out is to allow them to work off that debt in our rural areas, in our challenged areas, so that they can get that education moving and move on and do it. The kid that goes to a public university and works right after to work that debt off is going to be a different kid than comes out of a private university and starts at a $100,000 job. They will view the world differently. The third thing I want to talk about is the infrastructure. Now, infrastructure is a big word for a big issue. But I will tell you one of the things in the 8th District that I've discovered is that one of the big concerns in infrastructure is absence of broadband. There's no computer access in so many of our counties. Cell phone, yeah, I can drive for 2 hours through some parts of the district and not have any cell service. Yet, they pay the same amount of things that we do for having access to it. That's a huge part of any infrastructure plan. So I need to be wrapping this up a little bit. I'd love to talk a lot longer, and I'm going to close with one thing that I want you to take to heart, and that is you are here tonight because you care. You are here because you want something better. And it's important to send people to Congress who will work across the aisle to get infrastructure done, to get all of the things that we need to have done so that we can be a robust society. So one thing I want to ask you to do, I'd like you to take your phone out, if you'd like what I said, go to Ellis for Missouri, that's the Facebook page, and just like it. Second thing is, tomorrow night we have a phone bank in the DEM office in Festus. You can just show up at 6 o'clock to 8. And we have an event on Monday night at Tatros, 5:30 to 7:30. Come on over and talk to us. Thanks so much.
She almost got the dreaded stop sign. We will come back a little later in our program to pick up the candidates for District 2. But for now, we will move to the state scene and move to District 22. And we have a Democratic candidate with us tonight, Robert Butler. A 22-year resident of Jefferson County, Mr. Butler is an attorney who runs his own law practice specializing in workers' compensation. Mr. Butler currently serves on the Jefferson County Democratic Central Committee. He has also volunteered his time with the Immaculate Conception Catholic Church Parish Council, past president, finance committee member, and strategic planning committee member, and he's coached all of his kids' teams in soccer, basketball, and softball. Please welcome Robert Butler.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank Jefferson College and Jefferson County Growth Association for hosting this event tonight and their commitment to the community. My name is Robert Butler, and I'm running for Jefferson County to represent Jefferson County in the Missouri Senate. I am a lifelong Missourian, and 22 years ago, my wife Miriam and I decided to move to Jefferson County to raise our kids. I love our community, and I'm running because I believe it's worth protecting. I'm running because when I talk to my neighbors, they are tired of seeing their elected officials work for billionaires and huge out-of-state banks and insurance companies. I'm running because I want to work for you. I want to shift the balance back to working families. I want to restore full funding to our public schools. I want to ensure health care benefits, especially for our seniors and veterans. The role of a state senator is one of public service. It should be about listening to the voters and local concerns as well as statewide issues. My opponent and I agree on some things, like abortion and Second Amendment rights, but we also disagree sharply on many issues that concern our neighbors, like public education, law enforcement, health care, and fully supporting labor unions. I am happy to have this opportunity to discuss some of these differences. From a young age, my family instilled in me the importance of public service. My dad ran as an underdog candidate for St. Louis County Council in the 70s. He served in office with the guiding principles of honesty, integrity, and respect. so much so that he was fired from his day job after taking a vote that was unfavorable to his employer. He always looked to do the right thing, and I've always looked to follow his example. When my dad lost his job, there were some hard times for my parents, but they did what they had to do to get by. In the end, they couldn't have done better for their kids. My sister Donna is a nurse, my brother Jim is an engineer, and my brother Mike is a Catholic Monsignor. My parents gave me the tools I needed to start my path to work my way through college and law school. My parents' generation wasn't looking for a free ride. They just wanted a safe community for their kids, enough to feed them, clothe them, and get them to the doctor if they were sick. But for too many working families in Jefferson County, that American dream is becoming harder every day. I was proud to campaign with my neighbors against Prop A, and I couldn't have been happier when we crushed it at the polls. But let me be clear. Anti-union Jefferson City politicians will continue to bring a tax on unions until we vote them out of office. My opponent has voted against labor 5 out of 8 times since 2016. That record includes anti-labor votes on project labor agreements, minimum wage, and paycheck deception. These are facts that you can check for yourself. I pledge to be an unwavering advocate for labor. Unlike my opponent, I support Prop B because a higher minimum wage benefits working families. When hardworking people can earn a living wage, it keeps them off government assistance. Their kids are better off, and the community thrives. Public schools are another cornerstone of a strong community. After decades of failure to fully fund Missouri's school foundation formula, Jefferson City politicians, including my opponent, voted to move the goalposts by cutting transportation funding. Cuts to transportation budgets are especially hurtful in Jefferson County, where our districts are spread out and have higher cost. Those dollars come directly out of the classroom. Good public schools are good for our kids, and they keep our property values high. Our schools need to remain a point of pride in our community. That is why I will work to restore full funding in our public schools. I will also work to protect health care benefits, especially for seniors and veterans. Many of these folks have worked hard their whole lives, paid into the system, and now they should be able to collect these benefits. Jefferson City's failure to opt into federally matched health care programs have been an absolute embarrassment. Here in Missouri, too many people fall into the donut hole where they make too much to qualify for assistance programs, but not enough to qualify for private insurance. We are watching hospitals close, longer lines for care, and more expensive prescriptions. It's bad for people, and it's bad for business. We need to get back to the basics. If elected, I will work to get our priorities straight with more responsible budgeting. Last session, Jefferson City politicians, including my opponent, voted to cut taxes by 40% for the wealthiest corporations and insurance companies. That same bill raised the tax burden on middle class and cut available funding for schools, law enforcement, and roads. I've talked to voters in Jefferson County. This is not what they want. They don't want right to work. They don't think huge banks need a tax break. They want fully funded schools, higher wages, and more health care options. It's time the legislature in Jeff City represents the values of the voters in Jefferson County. As your state senator, I will represent your values and listen to your concern on local issues. I will advocate for you when out-of-state company wants to expand the Hillsborough mine into a residential neighborhood. I will stand up when the state wants to close a license office in Crystal City. I will listen to law enforcement when they say they need more support for the 911 board. Now, I have great respect for Senator Wieland. I know his family. I worked bingo with his father for 7 years in our church. This isn't personal, but we have major disagreement on what's best for this community. I'm asking for your vote to shift the balance back to working families. When it comes to realizing the American dream, we can't do everything. But But if we can make things just a little easier for the working parents, for seniors, and for all those that are trying to do the right thing, then we have succeeded. Thank you, and please remember to get out and vote on November 6th.
This is the Jefferson County Growth Association Candidates Forum. You're watching it on JCTV or listening to it on KJF Radio or one of our affiliated social media platforms. Our sponsors tonight include our gold sponsor, Dobbs Tire and Auto, silver sponsors, Govero Land Services and Comtree, forum sponsors, Enterprise Bank, Fireworks City, and Lane Consolidated Services. I'm your moderator, Dr. Ray Comiskey. We move now to the State House, Representative District number 97. We begin with the Democratic candidate, incumbent Mike Revis. Mr. Revis represents part of Jefferson County in the Missouri District 97 in the House of Representatives. Prior to serving in the House of Representatives, Mr. Revis worked for Anheuser-Busch. He has also worked for Amazon in Dallas, Texas, and while in college, he served as an intern for Governor Jay Nixon. Representative Revis is involved in several organizations, including St. Patrick's Rock Church and the recent Alumni Advisory Board for Trelaske College of Business at Mizzou. He also returns annually to his former high school to volunteer at their Veterans Day celebration. Please welcome Mike Revis.
Good evening. First, thank you, Dr. Comiskey and Jefferson College for this opportunity and the Growth Association and all those who made tonight possible. My name is Mike Revis, and I'm your current state representative for District 97 in Northern Jefferson County. For those of you I'm meeting for the first time, howdy. For those of you that are familiar faces, it's good to see you again. We're living in an interesting time where social media and constant political bombardment are making our world more divisive. It's nice that we can all be here together in this room or joining online to listen to one another because we're all here for the same reason. We want Jefferson County in Missouri to be a great, safe, and prosperous place to live. It just so happens we have different views on how we want to get there. So before I get started on my views, let me back up and tell you a little bit about my background. If you've ever heard me speak, you know that first I'm going to talk about my family. Because for me, the decision to run was a very personal one. My family's been in this state since the first settlement down in St. Genevieve in the early 1700s. So in 300 years, we've made it about 50 miles north, so I think we like it here. For the first 200 years, they were hardworking farmers, trappers, settlers, and laborers. My grandpa would tell stories passed down about the neighboring farms raided near ours during the Civil War. My grandma and Grandpa Conley would always brag on whose farm got electricity first, thanks to Roosevelt. Or they'd talk about who got running water first. On my dad's side, my grandma down in Crystal City would talk about the relief baskets their family got from PPG during the Depression, and that every once in a while they'd throw in a nickel for each kid so that they could go down to the show. When the war broke out, both my grandpas served. When my grandpa Conley came back from the Navy, he went down to the Carpenter's Hall in St. Louis and got a union job. With this, he was able to earn a good wage, provide health care for his family, and retire thanks to a pension. He and his three brothers all became carpenters and had over 200 years of union membership. They all built homes on the same street where I live now in Fenton. I joke that it's kind of like my big fat Greek wedding on our street, except we're a bunch of Irish Catholics. We're now on the third generation living on the same street, and there's always someone you can pull up next to in a lawn chair and just sit and talk about your day. So that's my foundation. But how did I get here before you tonight as a state representative? Well, this time last year, I was working for Anheuser-Busch. I was not a state representative, and I was driving home from work listening to the radio, and they were talking on the news about our governor at the time, and they were talking about the out-of-state money and the dark money that was used to push right to work through our state house. They're also talking about how our governor was manipulating and stacking the state school board, which should be a nonpartisan group of people determining our children's education. Well, folks, I'm the proud son of a carpenter and a teacher. In fact, I'm the son, grandson, godson, cousin, nephew, and neighbor to someone who belongs to a union. I'm also the son, grandson, brother, nephew, and neighbor to a teacher. So for me, those were very personal attacks. And it was one of those moments, and I'm sure you've all had one, where you're watching the news and you think, someone's got to do something about this. And I decided right then and there that I was going to be that person for our district. Because I was born there. I was born and raised in Fenton, graduated from Rockwood Summit. I've always been very involved in our community through the school, played sports on Summit's team, and mowed lawns as a kid growing up in the summertime. If you ever saw that tall, lanky kid with boots and a cutoff and a straw hat mowing grass on New Sugar Creek, that was me. Grandpa made me wear the straw hat. From there, I went on to Mizzou, where I graduated with a bachelor's degree from the business school. I was very involved on campus and served in Governor Nixon's office as an intern. After graduating, I moved to Dallas for a short stint and worked for Amazon, but was very eager to move back here to work for Anheuser-Busch because that was always my goal. I share all this and I share my family's background because I'm sure a lot of you with deep roots in this community like mine understand where I'm coming from and have a very similar story of your own and know what it's like to come from hardworking people who have built themselves up in this community. That's why when I'm in Jefferson City, I don't need some high-paid political consultant to tell me how folks think around here. I'm a Fenton kid. I was raised here. I know how we feel. I knew that our county would overwhelmingly vote down Proposition A, which was attempting to bring right to work into Missouri. You see, that is the biggest difference between me and my opponent. My opponent openly supported Prop A this summer, while I was going door to door to encourage folks to vote no and to share my story on the damage that it would cause. You see, my opponent will say that the #1 issue in our district is flooding. Is flooding a tragedy, and is it a problem in our district? Absolutely. I've seen the devastation. I've lived here long enough to know that '93 was the big one. That's what we benchmark everything off of. I sandbagged Old Town Fenton in 2008 and 2012, and I sandbagged out at the Water District off PP in 15 and 17. I had to pick which side of the Merrimack I was going to be on and whether I was going to stay home or go to work. I get that it is a problem here. So I know that work still needs to continue to be done in Jeff City, but I'm not going to let work on that issue distract me from what the #1 issue facing our state is, and that is the attacks on labor and attacks on the working class. These attacks, like right to work, full repeals of prevailing wage, and paycheck deception, makes it more difficult to keep your union together, and are direct attacks on the middle class and our way of life in the 97th. People say, well, Mike, what's the union done lately? It's the union that fights for families like mine to make a decent wage. It's the union that provides training for skills to set an individual up with a debt-free education that will allow them to raise a middle-class family. It's the union that provided scholarship opportunities for people like me to make the dream of going to Mizzou a reality. And it's the union that came to my then young parents after my dad's open heart surgery and said, don't worry, Tim, you'll have a job waiting for you when you get back on your feet, and we're behind you, brother. There's a reason God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's to listen to others. And that's what I'm going to continue to do, and why I'm going to continue to listen to people in the district and fight for them in Jefferson City. Folks, it's been a pleasure. I'll be around for questions and look forward to meeting with more of you. Thank you.
The Republican candidate for State Representative District 97 is Mary Elizabeth Coleman. A resident of Arnold, Ms. Coleman was most recently employed, she represented Ward 2 on Arnold City Council from 2013 to 2015. She was most recently employed as the CEO of Tucker Allen. She is an estate planning attorney by trade, although she's not currently practicing law. Ms. Coleman serves on the board of the St. Louis Zoo and on Arch Grant. Please welcome Mary Elizabeth Coleman.
Hi, thank you all so much for coming tonight. I neglected to print my notes, so I'm going to be reading my notes from my phone. So if you'll forgive me, I look like the millennials looking down at my phone. I'm a grandmother millennial, being born in '82. I think I'm the oldest of the generation. So anyways, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to speak with you tonight. I was raised in Georgetown, Texas, which is a suburb of Austin. I think I'm the only one ever who's moved from Austin to Arnold quite happily. It's a population of 1. Along with my parents and my brother and sister, my parents are retired public school teachers. My brother's an aerospace engineer in Waco, Texas, and my sister is a public school teacher as well. She's a choir director. My dad was active in politics. I grew up putting out road signs and going to Right to Life rallies. He helped write the city charter, and that love of community and the understanding that you have to show up and you have to step forward and you have to do what you can for your community came from my dad. My love of learning came from my mom. My mom was the first one in her family to graduate from high school. She is she's the daughter of an immigrant to our country. He had a third-grade education and worked for the railroads. My grandfather, through his work, was able to put my mother through college, and then her younger sister, and every one of his grandchildren have been able to go to college. I am living the American dream, and I don't take that lightly. I started my first business when I was 11 years old. I was a competitive fencer, and my mom and dad, being public school teachers, didn't have the money to pay for the national travel. And so they lent me $100 and said, if you'd like to do this, then you need to earn the money to be able to do it. I lived, as I said, in Georgetown, which is the county seat, and set up very much like Hillsborough with a courthouse in the middle and businesses all around. I started a subscription flower business in the summers. I pulled my little wagon. I went and bought bud vases. They were 10 cents a piece at the Goodwill. And I went to go get an agricultural license to be able to buy the flowers wholesale. This was my first run-in with red tape, and I did not, in my $100 budget, have the ability to buy the ag license. So I wrote then Agricultural Commissioner Rick Perry and said, Mr. Perry, I can't afford this. Help me. What are you going to do? And he paid for the license out of his own pocket. Most of the businesses, as in Hillsborough, around the county courthouse, are lawyers. And that's where I first encountered the law. I decided I'm going to, scroll through. And I understood how important the elected judges were, how important the lawyers were, how important the small businesses were that supported our community and that supported me. I sold that business when I was 15. My name is Mary Elizabeth. I have 6 children, 4 children biologically and 2 who joined our family through open domestic adoptions. So I'm going to shock you all that I'm Catholic. And so I wanted to go to a Catholic school. Having graduated from 12 years of public school, I wanted to see what going to Catholic school, parochial school, would be like. I met and married my husband, Chris Coleman. Chris is the proud 9th generation from Jefferson County. His family was in the DeSoto area, all worked at the shops on the railroad there. And we moved to San Antonio for me to go to law school. St. Mary's University has a nice pipeline between St. Louis, and I have a baby sister who I wanted to see graduate from high school, be in the play, that kind of thing. Family's really important. And we started our family while we were in San Antonio. We bought my first house at 22. It was my first anniversary present from my husband. And we had our first son when I was 23. We had our second son when I was 24. We had our third son when I was 26. We had our fourth son when I was 27. And when we had our third son, when I graduated from law school, I was working at a large regional law firm, working 60 hours a week for somebody else, and thought, this is for the birds. I got to get where I can be with my family. My children are little. My family at that point was spread out, no longer all in one area, and we decided to come home. So we moved home in 2009 and built our house in Arnold. Meanwhile, we were blessed with two children through domestic adoptions, our daughter in 2011 and our son in 2017. I opened my own taxable estate planning practice and started writing wills and trusts for small business owners, for families who were providing for other families, and got involved within the startup community. Arch Grants in the city of St. Louis is one of the best incubators, one of the best yeast for the community doing economic development work, and I'm proud to serve with them. I was recruited through that work to open a legal startup and ran that business until last year when we adopted our youngest son and I came home. Like many conservatives across the country, I watched in dismay when our seat in the 97th became a data point for the so-called blue wave across the country. And I thought, you know, the Democratic Party no longer represents the values of our community. We are pro-life, we support the Second Amendment, and we support family. And what I see is, in the primaries especially, a wholesale attack on those values, and socialist liberals continuing their attack and moving the party further and further left. I should have printed my notes. I hope you guys will forgive me. We really do believe that to whom much is given, much is asked, and Chris and I have been blessed to work with a number of charities that support children in education. As I mentioned, I'm proud to serve on the board of the St. Louis Zoo and on Arch Grants, helping with economic development. We have a beautiful community, and I want to serve our neighbors and plan for our future. It is important to me as a mother to set an example of public service. It's important to me as a lawyer to work every day to solve complex problems. And as a startup CEO, I understand the need for consistencies in tax laws and regulations. My legislative priorities are to make sure that we are protecting our rights, the right to life, the Second Amendment, that we're helping to grow the local economy, that we're doing everything we can to support economic growth and provide good quality jobs, and to ensure that transparency is in place. I will be a watchdog for taxpayer money, and I will always be open and honest with the people of the 97th District. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for hosting this event.
Our next race is the District 111 House Representative seat. Tonight, we have a Democratic candidate with us, Phoebe Ottemeyer. Prior to retirement in 2016, Ms. Ottemeyer worked for the State of Missouri Department of Corrections as a probation and parole officer for 28 years. During this time, she developed policy and procedure for the Division of Probation and Parole and was a member of the Divisional Planning Group, Safety Committee, and the Department of Corrections Peer Action Care Team, providing crisis assistance, support, and referrals for DOC employees. She volunteers her time with the Jefferson County Democratic Central Committee, the Jeffco Engaged Citizens, and the Elks, Cedar Hill Elks number 2678. Please welcome Phoebe Ottemeyer.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to this candidate forum. I'd also like to thank the Jefferson County Growth Association and Jefferson College for hosting this event. My name is Phoebe Ottemeyer. I'm running for state representative in District 111. I've lived in Jefferson County for 28 years and in my district for 27. I am a retired state probation and parole officer, a union member, and a union steward. I spent 25 of my 28 years on the job right here in Jefferson County. I've seen firsthand what heroin is doing to the community. Since I started this campaign, almost everyone I've spoken with has been touched by this problem. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, nearly 80% of heroin users report they began using prescription opiates prior to using heroin. Missouri is the only state in the country that does not have a comprehensive, statewide prescription drug monitoring program. Without the ability to monitor prescription opiates, doctors have also become reluctant to prescribe them, causing people who have a legitimate need for them to suffer. I believe we need to focus on harm reduction, utilizing common sense, evidence-based measures. I commend the efforts of Chad Zabora at the Missouri Network for Opiate Reform and Recovery, and so many others in our community in advancing these common sense measures. I will work with these community partners, including those in law enforcement and the criminal justice system, to draft legislation and secure available funding to address this problem. According to the Kaiser Health Foundation, in 2014, Medicaid paid for more addiction treatment than all other insurers combined. Missouri needs to expand Medicaid to provide greater access to medical, mental health, and substance abuse treatment. This includes veterans and their families who do not qualify for or lack access to VA services. According to the Urban Institute, over 14,500 veterans and 7,800 of their family members in Missouri would be eligible for Medicaid coverage if the state expanded Medicaid. Expansion would also bring federal dollars and jobs into Missouri's economy. In 1776, John Adams wrote, "Government is instituted for the common good. for the protection, safety, prosperity, and happiness of the people, and not for profit, honor, or private interest of any one man, family, or class of men. Beginning in 2005, a series of tax cuts have favored the wealthy and corporations, providing fewer tax dollars for the support of public education, hospitals, roads, bridges, and public safety. As a result, approximately 20 school districts in Missouri have moved to 4-day weeks, and 4 hospitals in rural Missouri have closed. This affects the safety, security, and overall quality of life for people in the state of Missouri. The proposed gas tax on the November ballot, Proposition D, is a regressive tax that I oppose. The League of Women Voters has expressed concerns that this will put more burden on lower-income individuals. I share that concern. We need fair and balanced taxation to support our public infrastructure. Corporations and the wealthy in Missouri need to pay their fair share. We need to support working families in Missouri with a living wage. Proposition B on the November ballot is a step in the right direction that I support. If approved by the voters, this measure will gradually increase the state's minimum wage of $7.85 an hour to $12 by 2023. This will also boost the purchasing power of working families, which is good for our economy. In a 2017 report by State Auditor Nicole Galloway, over $115 million was paid out to settle lawsuits by state employees over a 6-year period. An additional $36 million was paid outside the state settlement fund. The bulk of these cases concerned workplace discrimination, medical malpractice, wrongful deaths, or injuries. I am pleased that the reforms recommended in this report by the state auditor had bipartisan support and have been adopted. I support any efforts to increase integrity, transparency, and accountability in state government, and I strongly support Amendment 1. People in both the public and private sectors deserve respect, safety, and fair compensation in the workplace. In Missouri, we soundly defeated Proposition A with 67% voting against the measure. With that vote, we recognized and supported our unions. Let's finish the job. I'm Phoebe Ottomeyer, and I ask for your vote on Tuesday, November 6th, for State Representative in District 111. Thank you.
All right, well, we'll take a brief step away from our state offices for a moment and return to our federal offices and go to U.S. House of Representatives, District Number 2. Tonight, we have a Democratic candidate, Court Van Ostren, with us. As an attorney, Mr. Van Ostren advocates on behalf of farmers and other hardworking Missourians. He coordinates a community partnership with several metro area public schools and helps lead a nonprofit that champions the rehabilitation and reentry of Missouri's prison population. He also regularly teaches and mentors in the Missouri Scholars Program. We appreciate his being here. He literally has just walked in the door. Mr. Court Van Ostren.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Good evening, everybody. It is a pleasure to be with you all. We just came from an event in Kirkwood, so we had a nice drive down and got to blare some country music, and it's great to be at Jefferson College now. I'm Court Van Ostren. I'm running for United States Congress in the 2nd Congressional District of Missouri against Ann Wagner, who has represented the district for the last 6 years. I got in this race because of my values. I am a lifelong Missourian, and I grew up in Southwest Missouri. Today is an auspicious day. We heard our former Senate candidate, Jason Kander, announce he was suspending his bid for mayor of Kansas City because some issues that he's dealing with, mental health issues. Mental health issues also shaped my life because my father, when I was 8 years old, took his own life. And that was, for me, as an 8-year-old, a world-defining moment. I watched my mom, who was a widow in her early 30s, about the age I am now, in fact. She was left when my father passed away with an 8-year-old, that was me, my brother who was 5 at the time, and my sister who was 2. My mom rededicated her life to make sure that me and my brother and my sister, who's around here somewhere, had the things that we needed to climb the ladder to the middle class, to find our own definition of success and to work towards it. And because I had an incredibly strong, supportive community, because I had a family that lifted me up and a strong public school that let me chase my dreams and go off to school on a scholarship from the Elks Club, I was able to do those things. But I am running for Congress because as I took a hard look at the record of our Congresswoman, it was clear to me that she has a different set of values that motivate her. You know, when I look at every issue, for me, I think we got to look at whether we are removing barriers and obstacles and giving people those same opportunities that me and my brother and sister were lucky to have to climb the ladder to success into the middle class, or are we leaving barriers and obstacles in place? We have in Ann Wagner a Congresswoman who, although she's represented us for 6 years, has never once held an in-person town hall in her district. She takes 99%, which is a staggering number even by Washington standards, of her money from corporate special interests, from lobbying groups, and from single high-dollar donors, less than 1% from grassroots supporters. You know, I am running because I think we need somebody who will represent real people in the 2nd District of Missouri. So we're not taking any corporate PAC money, but I am proud to say that our grassroots campaign has really moved the dial in this race. I am running because I think we need somebody who will stand up for common sense solutions to gun violence. I grew up in Southwest Missouri. I know that we need a strong Second Amendment, but I think that there's so much that we agree on. Universal background checks, 80 to 90% of Americans agree too. I think we need somebody who will do what's in the interests of Americans and stand up against the special interest lobbying groups. I'm running because I think we need strong schools for every kid like the ones that me and my family enjoyed. But most of all, I am running because I think everybody deserves access to great health care in this country. I got in this race because my mom, the mom who raised me when my father passed away, she had health care at the end of her life through the Affordable Care Act exchange. She had a Blue Cross Blue Shield plan as she fought her battle with breast cancer. It wasn't a perfect plan by any means, but it allowed me and my family to focus on being together, and it allowed my mom to get the care that she needed. A little over a year ago, I watched as Ann Wagner voted to cut 23 million people, like my mom, off of their health care coverage, voted to make it so that people with pre-existing conditions might have to pay 5 times, 10 times, 20 times as much to get access to health care. That felt like a vote against my family. That felt like a vote against my mom, and it is why I'm running for United States Congress. We have an incredible opportunity in this race. Slowly but surely, the prognosticators in Washington have moved the dial our way when it comes to this race. First they said no Democrat could win here. Then they said, well, maybe it's just a likely Republican seat. Then maybe a lean Republican seat. Our last polling shows us up 2 points in this district because of the incredible work that my team and I have put in. But I would love to ask for all of your support as well. If you believe in a government that represents real people, if you believe in somebody that is willing to work across the aisle and get results instead of somebody who votes with her party 97% of the time, then I am asking for your support in this race. You know, we like to say in Missouri that we are the show-me state. I think that good representation at least begins with showing up for your constituents. That is what I will do if I am elected to the United States Congress. That's what our Congresswoman has failed to do, and that's why I'd love to ask for your support. It's great to be with you, everybody. I'm Court Van Osteren, running for United States Congress. Thank you very much.
All right, we're about to enter our second hour of our legislative forum. This is the Jefferson County Growth Association Forum, brought to you on KJF Radio and JCTV. Our sponsors tonight are Dobbs Tire and Auto, Govero Land Services, Comtree, Enterprise Bank, Fireworks City, and Lane Consolidated Services. We go back now to the State House of Representatives, District 112. We have the Democratic candidate here with us tonight, Benjamin Hagan. Mr. Hagan has worked in the automotive collision repair industry for nearly 20 years. He is currently employed with a multinational insurance company. Mr. Hagan has also owned and operated his own small business, teaching Missouri and Illinois concealed carry courses as an NRA certified pistol instructor. Please welcome Benjamin Hagan.
Good evening. My name is Benjamin Hagan. I'm running for state representative in the 112th House District here in Missouri. I want to start by thanking Dr. Kaminsky, Jefferson College, and the JCGA and the sponsors for organizing this event. I think it is imperative that the people of Jeff County hear from us as candidates directly. I've worked in the automotive collision industry now for almost 20 years. One thing that I've always enjoyed about my job is the opportunity to help restore people's lives after what is often a traumatic experience. Currently, I work for a multinational insurance company, making a very fair wage. I could be completely content with going about my daily routine, frankly, earning more than I would as a representative, but I could not continue to sit back and just hope for the representation I think we deserve. I see the possibility of this office as an opportunity to serve not only my family, but my friends, my neighbors, and my community as a whole. My campaign is based on the foundation of listening to the people of Jefferson County, my neighbors and my community, and what their concerns are. And I fully intend to continue that into office and hold regular town meetings to stay firmly connected and held accountable to our community. It was about 2 years ago I decided to run for state representative while I was out working to repeal right to work, collecting signatures in Springfield, is where we were at the time. And I realized at that point that we would be fighting that same battle year after year unless we remove from office those that keep forcing it upon us. I come from a strong union family and understand what a union does to help the wages of the middle class. In Jefferson County, in the 112th House District, based on the polling location, 77.54% of the people voted no on Proposition A. You would think that that would send a loud, clear message to our representatives in Jeff City that we don't want right to work in Jefferson County or the state of Missouri. Unfortunately, I, for one, do not trust that they will listen to us, as they have proven time and time again in the past. I will fight to protect the working class as well as their right to collective bargaining. I'm familiar with the daily struggles families shoulder while dealing with health issues. With the rise of healthcare costs over the last 20 years, people just cannot afford the health care that they need. With the closing of several rural hospitals in Missouri over the last few years, it is obvious we're failing rural Missourians when it comes to safe and affordable access to health care. I will work to increase funding in the healthcare system and expand Medicare and Medicaid in Missouri, because nobody should have to choose between the medication that they need and eating. Our public school system is the backbone of the American dream, always has been. We have been facing attacks on this very system. Charter schools and vouchers are siphoning funds from an already tight budget and moving these funds to sometimes for-profit institutions. And these schools have no better track record than our public school system. I will work to stop the spread of vouchers as well as charter schools and restore proper funding to our public school system, including transportation, so our children get the first-class education that they deserve. I support Amendment 1, Clean Missouri, because we need to make sure that our elected officials are held accountable to us and not their corporate benefactors. We need to make sure that voters get to choose their elected officials, and the elected officials do not get to choose their voters. We need to put an end to gerrymandering as well as dark money in politics. I support Proposition B, Raise Missouri. Minimum wage was first created to ensure a living wage. It's not, as some people put it, an entry-level position for a high school kid. Many elderly and near-retirement people within our community work at or near minimum wage jobs. And 1 in 5 children live in low-income homes in Missouri. It's time that we make the concept of I personal again and the concept of we public again. We need to restore the idea of the people, by the people, and for the people. I want to thank you for your time. My name is Benjamin Hagan. I'm running in the Missouri 112th House District, and I'm going to ask for your vote November 6th.
Our next race is the 113th District of the House State of Representatives, and we'll begin with the Democratic candidate, Karen Settlemore-Berg. A resident of Imperial, Ms. Settlemore-Berg has worked as a union representative for United Food and Commercial Workers, Local 655, for the past 7 years. She's also the Director of Servicing for the union. Prior to this, she worked for Deerbergs as a department manager. Ms. Settlemore-Berg volunteers for the United Way, the Missouri Immigration Refugee Advocacy, the Gateway Chapter of Labor and Employee Relations Association, where she's president, and is a member of the NRA. Please welcome Karen Settlemore-Berg.
Good evening. I'd like to thank Jefferson College and the Jefferson County Growth Association for putting on this program this evening. My name is Karen Settlemore-Berg, and I'm running for Missouri House District 113. I would like to share a little bit about me with all of you. I am a proud wife. I'm a mother of 3 lovely children, and I am proud to say I am a grandmother of 8 gorgeous grandchildren. I have lived in Jefferson County for the last 15 years, but I have lived in Missouri and in St. Louis my entire life. I am the granddaughter, the daughter, the sister, the niece, the cousin, and the aunt, and the mother-in-law of veterans that fought for our country. I'm proud to say and happily relieved that my son-in-law Kevin has just come home from his 3rd tour of duty in the Middle East. We are a proud family, and we have served this country a long time. I hope to join my brothers and my family in serving the people of Jefferson County and this state. A little bit of history for you. My father and my uncle both served in World War II. My grandfather, who came to America when he was 19 years old from Italy, was not allowed to serve during World War II. But when the Korean War started, he received special permission from the president to serve with my father in the Korean War. This was a proud moment for our family. I believe in the American flag. I believe in God, and I believe in the people of this country. I don't believe in the factors in our government any longer. I believe that we are suffering under dark money and corruption within our government. And I don't say that it's on one side or the other, because it happens on both sides. We see it every day. I don't believe that we have an ignorant group of people in this country that don't see the corruption that we are all experiencing. We have to change that. We can change that by cleaning up our politics and getting money out of it. We need to make sure that our representatives represent the people and not special interest groups. Gifts, I have taken a pledge to not take any gifts from any lobbyist, and I believe that that should be held everyone to that standard. We need to make sure that we're representing our people in our districts. They are the voice. It is the house of the people, and it should be the house of the people. Every human being deserves to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in this country, for whatever that means. For me, that means that we have good paying jobs. We have health care. We don't have a tax constantly on labor unions and working families. Everyone deserves to earn a living wage if they work 40 hours a week. No one should go to bed hungry. No child should suffer because their parents have to work 2 jobs and they're left to babysitters and television to raise them. We can do better, and we must do better. I'd like to touch on some of the things that was shared in my bio. Yes, I do serve with Missouri Immigration Refugee Advocacy Panel. And in that position, I spend my time helping legal immigrants fill out their paperwork so that they can become citizens. This doesn't mean I don't believe in border control. This doesn't mean that I believe that we should let every person come across the border into our country, although these are some of the things that I hear from the opposition. It's time to be clear and honest with our politics. I gathered signatures for right to work. I stand with my brothers and sisters and with the 67% of the folks that voted against it. I can't say that for my opponent. I will never change my stance on right to work in this country and in this state. We need to ensure the safety of workers and the well-being of every single family in our country. Again, I'm Karen Settlemore-Berg. I appreciate your time. I hope you'll consider me in November, and thank you.
The Republican candidate for District 113 is incumbent Dan Schall. Representative Schall currently serves Jefferson County in the Missouri House of Representatives. He was elected to his first two-year term in November 2014. He became state director of the Missouri Grocers Association in 2006. Prior to this, he served as director of Mid-American Grocers Association in St. Louis. He is the third generation of Schalls to lead the grocery industry through association management. Representative Schall also served in the U.S. Air Force. He serves on the following boards, including the Windsor School Board of Education, the Food Marketing Industry Government Relations Committee, the National Grocers Association, and the Food Industry Association Executive Board, where he's past chairman. His entire family is involved in the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts. Please welcome Dan Schall.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here tonight and a pleasure also. I'd like to thank Jefferson County Growth Association for hosting and organizing this candidate forum, and to KJEF Radio for broadcasting to the citizens of this great county. I'd also like to thank Dr. Comiskey for allowing us to use Jefferson College tonight. If you get a chance, please visit the newly renovated library here on campus. It's a result of the leadership here at the college and also the delegation of representatives and senators from Jefferson County. The leadership provided the vision for the library, and we, as the delegation of representatives and senators, were able to obtain the funding to make sure it happened. Please make sure you go visit if you have time, if not today, at another time. I am Dan Schall, as Dr. Comiskey said. I've been the clear choice of the voters in each of the past two elections, both in 2014 and 2016. I'm now asking you to make that same choice again on November 6th. A little bit about me before we go on further. I've been married to my wife Kim for 25 years, over 25 years. We've been a resident of Imperial for 21 years. I have three children, Sarah, a sophomore, Emily, a senior. They both go to Windsor High School, where I'm still on the Board of Education. Our oldest son, Matthew, is currently serving in the United States Air Force, where he is a crew chief on a Special Forces C-130 gunship. If you've ever seen one of those in action, you understand why the enemy needs to be a good job at running away. They're very powerful airplanes. I too served in the United States Air Force during the Cold War. It's because of those who have and are now currently serving and protecting our freedoms that we can be here tonight to discuss these very topics that are important to each of us. During the election, the last election, 2016, as we went door to door, the voters made it very clear that they wanted lower taxes. They were tired of the government taking money from them. I'm proud to say that I was part of and voted for House Bill 2540, the working family tax cut that was just passed this year. It lowered personal income tax for all from 5.9 to 5.5%. And if certain triggers are made and hit in the next few years, it'll go down to 5.1. This tax package reduced taxes for everyone: seniors, empty nesters, entrepreneurs, and certainly working families. The need for family sustainable jobs in Jefferson County area is a concern of everyone, including myself. Over the past 4 years, I, along with the help of many others, including Representative Ruth, who will be speaking in a minute, Senator Whelan, we have created a new river port in Kimmswick that will bring tourists to the river town and create jobs in and around Jefferson County. The possible tax increase there could be over $30 million for the county. The groundbreaking for this exciting project will be happening very soon, possibly in October. I will also continue to work with and support the work of Representative Ruth and others on further expanding Jefferson County's abilities to be the premier river port on the Mississippi River and a great center for jobs in the coming years. The voters have also said they wanted more money in their pocket. Sometimes that's hard to do. But we did support the modernization of the electrical grid this year, and you might say, why would that have anything to do with it? But if we're able to create electricity cheaper, more effectively, distributed better, we'll be able to reduce our taxes or reduce the cost. So we were able to create a reliable power grid for now and in the future to meet our demands and reduce electrical costs to consumers. You would have seen those those decreases in your bill if you were with a certain provider starting last month. The community has expressed their continued support for public education. Serving on the Windsor School District, it's very apparent that people support the education that Windsor is providing. I'm happy to report that once again this year public education was fully funded and at an all-time high for Missouri. More money was spent on education this year in the state of Missouri than it ever has in the past. I voted in favor of these budget items, even while making sure the state budget was balanced. And that is a core principle that I always stand on, that the budget must be balanced. I was a House handler of the Elections Reform and Modernization Bill, Senate Bill 592. It has brought state statute up to date with technology. We hadn't had much of a reform or update of that statute for many, many years. It brought it up to technology so that we can ensure that we have fair, just, transparent elections take place not only in Jefferson County, but throughout the state. And that bill passed with large bipartisan support as well. I was also the handler of House Bill 2277, and it deals with handicap placards. Currently, you needed, every 4 years, you had to take your doctor's note to the DMV to show that you were still permanently disabled. This bill takes that 4-year requirement and makes it an 8-year requirement of producing the doctor's note. We had originally wanted it, once you were permanently disabled, not to have to show the note, but the Senate decided that they didn't, the only way they were going to pass it was 8, and through the spirit of compromise and bipartisanship, we went with the 8, and we'll see what we can do about getting it done in the past. This bill was a great example about working across the aisle. It passed the House with a vote of 138 to 1. I strongly believe in protecting the unborn and will continue to pass policy that will protect the lives of the innocent unborn by providing options for those who are considering abortion. In closing, I'd like to mention that I've been endorsed by the following: Missouri Right to Life, the National Rifle Association. I'm the only one endorsed in this race. I've been endorsed by the the Carpenters Union, Arnold Police Officers Association, the National Federation of Independent Businesses, the Missouri Chamber of Commerce, and I was recognized by the Missouri Farm Bureau as a friend of agriculture. As I meet constituents both throughout the community and in Jefferson City, I remind them that it is okay to discuss differing opinions without hate. It is the ability to disagree without hating that makes the United States of America the best country in the world. God bless everyone here. God bless this great country we call home. Thank you.
We'll turn our attention now to the 114th District of the Missouri State House, and we'll begin with Republican candidate Becky Ruth. Becky Ruth currently serves District 114 in the Missouri House of Representatives. She was elected to her first 2-year term in November 2014. She has received the MSTA Friend of Education Award, the local state legislative award from the YMCA, and the Friend of Agriculture Award from the Missouri Farm Bureau. A lifelong Festus resident, after 25 years of teaching, Representative Ruth retired from the Festus School District and is currently a realtor with RE/MAX Best Choice in Festus. Representative Ruth is a member of the Jefferson County Board of Realtors, serves on the Jefferson County Parents as Teachers Advisory Committee, and serves on the Capital Campaign Board for a Safe Place Domestic Violence and Abuse Shelter. Becky also is the founding member and director of the Jefferson County Diaper Bank. Please welcome Becky Ruth.
Good evening. Thank you to JCGA, Jefferson College, JCTV, KJEF Radio, J98, The Booth. It's very great to be here tonight and speak with you. You know, I could stand up here and just simply read a pre-written speech on lots of pages with just words on it, but I think it's more important that you hear from me directly from my heart and who I am. You know, if you were able to peer inside of my heart and see what's written there, the first thing that you would see is God. I'm a Christian. I am pro-life. I'm the only candidate in this race endorsed by Missouri Right to Life. I believe in protecting all lives, from inside the womb all the way through our senior citizens. I've worked very, very hard in our state to expand newborn screening, which has saved hundreds of lives of children, especially those with rare diseases. Not only have we saved those children's lives, but we have put Missouri at the top when it comes to newborn screening. Missouri is looked at by not just nationally, but globally. Other states and other countries look to our state to see what we are doing. The second thing that you would see written on my heart is my family. I'm a wife, a mother, a grandmother. My family is very important to me, just as your families are to you. I believe in doing what I do, not just for my children and grandchildren, but for your grandchildren and for our future generations. I'm a retired teacher, so making sure we have a quality education is very important to me. Making education a priority in our state and making sure our teachers, our students, our schools have the resources that they need. I've been there. I've walked into a classroom and I've pulled money out of my own pocket to supply my classroom. And we need to make sure we're doing a better job of making education our #1 priority. Whether a student is going into a 2-year, a 4-year, a vo-tech, or straight into the workforce, we need to make sure that they have the skills that they need to be prepared for a successful life. I am endorsed by all of the major education groups in our state. The next thing that you would see written on my heart is community. My community is very important to me. I grew up in Festus. I'm a fifth generation Jefferson Countyan. Both of my grandfathers worked at Pittsburgh Plate Glass over in Crystal City. And the Peebles Von Weidman American Legion Post 253 in Festus is named after my great uncle Charlie Peebles. He was one of our first Jefferson Countyans to die serving his country in World War I. So I have very deep roots in this community, and it's very important to me. I believe in service above self. I have volunteered extensively in our community, even going back so far as to bringing back our Santa house to make sure our children have a free place to go and visit Santa without parents having to dig in their wallets and spend a fortune out at the malls just to do that simple thing. That's a tradition I'm proud that we continue to do, and it's grown into a huge Winterfest now. So volunteering in our community is extremely important to me. I'm also a small businesswoman. As a small businesswoman, I understand that our small businesses are the backbone of our communities. When the owner of Main and Mill Brewing came to me, Denny Foster, and said, there's this archaic law that's causing a real problem for me. It was just riddled with red tape. I rolled up my sleeves and I changed that law so that he can proceed to do business and expand and grow his business. That's what's important, is that we get the red tape out of the way and we take action. I believe in supporting our military, our law enforcement, and our firefighters. I believe in not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. I came from a law enforcement family. My father was a police sergeant in Festus. He also served in World War II. So all of those things are extremely important to me. I went out and I did a series of learning about jobs within my communities. I actually learned everything from firefighting to climbing on the back of a garbage truck and picking up bulk trash one day, because those jobs are important. I believe in fighting for good paying jobs here. I will stand with you, the working men and women of my district. We need good family sustaining jobs. I have stood with you and I have voted no on right to work. I have voted no on paycheck protection and no on the repeal of prevailing wage. I'm endorsed by the St. Louis Labor Council, Jefferson County Labor Committee. I'm also endorsed by the Teamsters, the Carpenters Union, SEIU, just to name a few. I have worked very, very hard to make sure I am representing my district. And I will continue to fight for you and make sure that we're bringing jobs and industry here to Jefferson County. As chair of the subcommittee on ports, I fought to bring $7.4 million to ports in our state, which gives a 7-to-1 return, by the way. Most people don't realize that. That is also coming here to Jefferson County to provide good paying jobs and growing a strong economy for the people that work right here. In addition to supporting our military, our firefighters, and our law enforcement, this past year I passed a law to create a post-traumatic stress awareness day. I don't know if you know, but on average about 22 veterans a day commit suicide. This has to stop. They've served our country. They need the care that they deserve. So hopefully with this day, we will bring about awareness and get them the help that they deserve. I also believe in health care that will work for all Missourians and making mental health a priority. We have to do something also about our opioid epidemic that is killing, literally killing, our children and our families every single day. I will continue to work hard and bring results here to Jefferson County for you. That is my pledge to my district. I ask you to vote Becky Ruth on November 6th. Thank you.
Even though they didn't make the playoffs, as Mike Shannon says, we owe you a station break. So this is Jefferson County Growth Association Legislative Forum on KJF Radio and JCTV. We are sponsored tonight by Dobbs Tire and Auto, Govero Land Services, Comtree, Enterprise Bank, Fireworks City, and Lane Consolidated Services. My name is Ray Comiskey. I'm your moderator tonight. And if you like what you hear about the Growth Association, we invite you to join and become a member. You can look us up on the web. All right, continuing on with District 114, our Democratic candidate tonight is Dennis McDonald. He's a lifelong resident of Jefferson County, and he currently serves as an educator here at Jefferson College and St. Louis Community College. Please welcome Dennis McDonald.
Hi, I'd like to echo the thanks to Jefferson County Growth Association, the college, and all the sponsors for putting on this event. My name is Dennis McDonald. I'm a Democrat, and I'm running for state representative in District 114. And I'm running because the current Republican legislature has made it clear that their priorities are with wealthy donors and not the working people of Jefferson County. It's time to send people to Jeff City that will fight for our values and put the interests of the people of our county over those of wealthy campaign donors. I'm also excited to be here in this particular place because the college is an institution that I care deeply about. Like a lot of you in this room, I'm sure I got my start here as a student, but I'm also lucky enough to teach here on a daily basis. Jefferson College represents a real opportunity for people of our area, and I'm really proud to have my small role in it. But this opportunity is something that needs to be protected. We need a state government that will stop giving away the state treasury to wealthy Missourians and start investing in our future and more in Jefferson College. We need to invest more in our schools, all the way from pre-K to higher education. We know this type of funding comes back to us in the form of a higher paid workforce and a workforce that is ready to meet the challenges of today and tomorrow. Other states, like Tennessee, have expanded access to higher education and are offering tuition-free community college to high school graduates in their state. That's the type of thinking that we need here in Missouri, so we too can be leaders in educating the workforce of tomorrow. I'm a product of public education from kindergarten all the way through graduate school. I understand the importance of educational opportunities in lifting folks out of poverty. So let's work together to build a Missouri that works for everyone and puts us at the top of the list of places people want to live, work, and attend school. We've seen result that extreme Republican policies can have on educational institutions in other states like Kansas, West Virginia, and Arizona. We know cutting investment in our future doesn't work. It actually undermines our communities and the welfare of the people of our state. While we're talking about the welfare of the people of our state, let's talk about health care. As Mr. Butler brought up, plenty of folks, including myself, fall into that dreaded Medicaid gap. And there's far too many people across our state that can't afford health care. The legislature failed to expand Medicaid when they were given the opportunity and left hundreds of thousands of our fellow Missourians without health care. This left millions of federal dollars on the table and will end up costing us more in the long run. These are people who work and they deserve access to health care. Instead, we have a situation where our rural hospitals are closing, small businesses are struggling to help their employees get health care, and there's inadequate access to people that need treatment who are struggling with addiction. In the area of health care, it's clear. Our legislators have failed us. Insurance companies have continued to fail us. And it's time we work together to fix this problem once and for all. While I'm on the subject of things that should have been fixed a long time ago, we need to talk about the minimum wage. Prop B is on the November 6th ballot, and it's an important first step in addressing this problem, and I fully support it. Anyone who works in our state deserves a living wage. There are millions of people in our state earning at or near the minimum wage currently, and as Ben pointed out, these aren't teenagers looking to find summer jobs. These are people I'm proud to call my coworkers. They're working adults trying to support themselves and their families with 2 or 3 jobs. We want people to serve our food, work in our hospitals, clean our stores, work in our nursing homes, take care of our children in daycare. They deserve to be fairly compensated for their work. For decades, wages have been stagnant, and an increasing number of working folks are being forced to depend on food stamps and other programs. I want to say that again. These are working people being forced to depend on these programs. If we want to lift people out of poverty, we have to end the practice of paying poverty wages. Our Republican legislature, on the other hand, saw fit to actually cut the wages of folks working in St. Louis and Kansas City after they raised their minimum wage. I would never vote to cut the wages of hardworking Missourians. While we're on the subject of hardworking Missourians, we need to continue the fight to protect good union jobs in our state. I was proud to work together with other folks to help defeat Prop A by knocking on doors, making phone calls. But that's only the beginning of the fight. We need to roll back the laws that have undermined our public sector union brothers and sisters. And I will always fight for good union jobs and dignity in the workplace. When we talk about dignity in the workplace, though, it's not just about higher wages or collective bargaining. It's about protecting workers from discrimination and illegal employment practices. Our legislature passed legislation which undermines the ability of workers to protect themselves from discrimination and report on illegal employment practices. They did this all in the name of fighting so-called frivolous lawsuits. There's nothing frivolous about protecting workers in the workplace. It's not red tape, and the right of all people to work in an environment of respect and dignity should not be challenged. I'm a political newcomer, that's true. This is my first time running for office. It's not my first time speaking in this room. You guys are way more attentive than my students usually are. I'm a father, I'm a teacher, I'm also a restaurant worker on the weekends, and I'm a proud union member. And I just would like to close by this. To the young people who are listening or sitting in the audience, get out and vote. You have a week to register. If you want to vote in the November 6th election, you must register by next Tuesday. There are people up and down this ticket that you've heard from tonight that care about your issues and your future. The only way to make sure your voice is heard and you're part of that conversation is to get out and vote now, not when you're older. If you're working and struggling to get by, I hear you, I'm with you. I work several jobs. I have a lot of bosses, and I still struggle to make ends meet. The issues I talk to you about tonight are not hypothetical for me. They're things that my family and myself have been dealing with for a long time, and we continue to struggle with. To older folks on a fixed income and those living on disability, I hear you too. My mom lived on a fixed income when she retired. My brother's been on disability his whole life, and I understand the fear that the impact of policies coming out of Jeff City can have on you. I know the difference a few dollars can make in your budget. To all of you, I ask you to join us. I'm a proud Democrat. I'm proud of the things that we stand for. Let's finish the job on November 6th. Vote Democrat, please. My name is Dennis McDonald, and I'm a Democrat running for State District 114, and I appreciate your vote on November 6th. Thank you.
All right. tonight we will move, or as we move to District 118, I first of all want to acknowledge tonight in our audience, for those of you who are listening on the radio, you get to see him, but we've got Representative Ben Harris in the crowd with us tonight. Ben, so thank you for being here. This will represent the first time in 18 years, I think, that this district has not been represented by somebody by last name of Harris. So that's something else. So we have two candidates for this tonight. Our first candidate is Democrat Barbara Marco, a resident of DeSoto for over 30 years. Ms. Marco has run several small businesses, including a 20-year home-based data entry company for Ralston Purina. Ms. Marco has volunteered her time with the Jefferson County Democratic Central Committee, the Women's Dems Club Vice President, the Missouri University Extension, where she's a board member, the Business and Professional Women's Group, and the Lions Club and the Citizens Committee for Flood Relief in DeSoto. Please welcome Barbara Marco.
Thank you, Dr. Kaminsky, Jefferson College, and the Jefferson County Growth Association for hosting this event. I also like to thank State Representative Ben Harris for his support and attendance tonight. Because I'm a first-time candidate, I don't have a long list of things that I accomplished in office, but I can share with you some of the things I have accomplished in life and how those things shape my views on current issues facing Jefferson County. I grew up as the only child of very conservative parents from Dixon, Missouri, and have lived in rural DeSoto for 24 years. After World War II, my father came home, married my mother, moved to St. Louis to find employment. They bought their first house, paid off the mortgage, and then had me. They taught me how to work hard for what I wanted. By the age of 19, I had earned enough money to pay cash for my first car and purchase my first house. When I graduated high school with honors, my parents didn't think a girl needed to go to college, so I did what was expected and married. My husband was a Teamster, and we had good benefits and a decent paycheck. 3 years and 2 children later, I finally admitted that I was in serious trouble because my husband was physically abusive. But I was lucky, because the community college was close by and it was affordable. I was able to work in between semesters and make enough money to pay for tuition and books. I graduated college with honors, debt-free. After college, I gained employment as a programmer analyst and worked in the corporate world. An affordable education lifted me from domestic abuse and made it possible to raise my boys as a single parent. Education was the key to my freedom, and it's also the key to Missouri's growth. While corporations are setting record profits, Missouri legislators have been busy cutting corporate taxes and underfunding schools to the point that 25 rural school districts are forced to operate on 4-day-a-week schedules. Missouri teachers are among the lowest paid in the nation. Last year, legislators cut higher education funding by $23 million and transportation by $15 million. Governor Greitens tried to cut higher education again this year by an additional $68 million. I will not shortchange our children's future or the future of Missouri so that the rich can get richer at the expense of our children. After 10 years of working in a STEM field, I went on to pioneer a data entry business from my basement. I contracted with Ralston Purina and hired mothers to work from their homes on PCs, and then expanded my client list nationwide. The business was very successful and grossed over $500,000 in the best year. I managed the business for over 20 years until a previous Republican administration enacted tax breaks for corporations to send work out of the country. The data processing industry was a casualty as it exited to India and offshore neighbors. So I returned to college and became a horticulturist. My second husband and biggest supporter, Kevin Hurley, and I started a tree and shrub nursery and a landscaping business. Talk about back-breaking hard work. The landscaping business was profitable in the first year and steadily grew until more corporate-leaning policies caused a worldwide recession. While growing our nursery and landscaping business, health insurance premiums skyrocketed. When I was sick, I couldn't afford to go to the doctor because my policy had no copays. And premiums for self-employed people were double that of a group policy. I suffered for over 1 year with weekly gallbladder attacks, and by the time I finally went to the emergency room, I was almost septic. It took 3 years to pay off the $5,000 deductible after surgery. Eventually, I was forced to drop all coverage until the ACA was enacted. Healthcare is the #1 threat to businesses, families, and the economy. According to Physicians for National Health Program, America ranks 28 in the world in life expectancy, 17th in quality of health care, spends roughly twice as much, has fewer number of doctors, and patients go to the doctor half as often. If the U.S. acted like the rest of the industrialized world, a single-payer system would cut premiums in half, provide better care, reduce the national debt, eliminate pre-existing conditions, and cover everyone. Other countries pay 1/2 to 1/5 of the cost for prescription drugs. The last issue I want to address is the sexual assault culture in America. As I knock on doors, I hear victim stories from complete strangers, including a 70-year-old man that shared his story and said I was the only person he had ever told. Our nation is suffering in silence. 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted, as well as 1 in 6 men. It's time for these hideous acts to stop and for healing to take place. I want our neighbors to know that I'm listening and that I care. In conclusion, if given the chance, I will work as hard for District 118 as I have for myself. I will be as fiscally responsible with taxpayer money as I have with my own. I will seek to forge relationships across the aisle. I support the Second Amendment in gun safety. I support expanding Medicaid. I will fight to make health care a right, not a privilege. I will fight to fully fund education and invest in our future. I oppose right to work. I will speak up on behalf of sexual assault victims, and I will advocate for hardworking families, seniors, and veterans who deserve the tax breaks, not the corporations. My name is Barbara Marco, and I'm asking for your vote for State Rep in District 118. Thank you.
The Republican candidate for District 118 is Mike McGurl. Mr. McGurl was elected Washington County's Collector of Revenue in November of 1990 and served for 24 years. He retired from this position in 2015. Mr. McGurl is a certified public accountant with over 34 years' experience working with both individuals and small businesses. Mr. McGurl volunteers with organizations in Potosi and Washington County, including the Rotary Club, Knights of Columbus, the Potosi Elks Lodge, and the Chamber of Commerce. Please welcome Mike McGurl.
Hello, my name is Mike McGurl, and I'm the Republican candidate for District 118, State Representative. The district covers the northern part of Washington County and the southern portion of Jefferson County. I was raised in the district in Old Mines, where I grew up on a family farm, raised by foster parents who were full-time farmers. I've been married for 34 years. We have 3 daughters and 1 grandchild. I graduated from Potosi High School in 1971, and I went to work at Chrysler plant in Fenton. I was a member of the UAW Local 136 for nearly 8 years. When the economy took the hard downturn, I was laid off. The labor market was rather bleak at the time, So I decided to make a career change. I enrolled to Mineral Area College for a year and then was accepted at the College of the Ozarks. I graduated from the College of the Ozarks with a degree in business and accounting. I passed my CPA exam in 1986 and I obtained my CPA license. While I was building my business, an opportunity arose for me to run for Washington County Collector. I was successful in winning that election in 1990 and went on to serve 6 consecutive terms, retiring in 2015. During my tenure as collector, I wanted to make a difference. Most of what was done, when I came into the job, very little was computerized. Most of the work was done manually. I made it my goal to change that, so I upgraded the computer and software systems, making the collection and distributing of the county's tax payments more effectively. In my second term, in 1996, I had the opportunity to work with the state legislature in improving the operations of collectors' offices statewide. This resulted in allowing online tax payments, and I became the first collector to offer this service. Because of the changes we were able to make in the statute, Washington County property owners, no matter where they lived, could pay their real estate and personal property taxes from their home computer. Later on, working with the Collectors Association in conjunction with the Missouri Department of Motor Vehicles, we were able to pioneer a program wherein you no longer had to have your personal property tax receipt when you licensed your vehicle. That information can now be uploaded and shared with license offices across the state, making the renewal process smoother and faster. As I mentioned, I'm a small business owner. I've owned my own accounting and tax practice for over 34 years. The number one thing that I hear from my clients, as well as what I see in my own practice, is businesses are overtaxed, they're overregulated, and unable to find workers for jobs that are created. I consider it my job as a CPA to help my clients get their businesses started and then provide advice and strategies to keep their doors open. And over the years, I have helped many businesses to grow and prosper because I feel it's vital for any community to have a strong small business presence in order to grow and thrive. Now I've told you a little about myself and my career. Now I'd like to tell you what I'd like to do for District 118. I will be a voice at the table for the district. In the majority, I will be able to work on substantial legislation, and my opinions will be heard. As a pro-life, pro-gun Christian, I share the values that the majority of the district hold dear, and I was endorsed by the Missouri Right to Life also. I will represent the people who elect me. What are my policy views? Number one is economic development. Nothing could be more helpful to our district than to attract new businesses, new jobs to our area. We need family-sustaining jobs, good career-building jobs here in our part of the state. And I promise to work for economic development in Jefferson City. Number two, infrastructure, roads and bridges. I will work to find the most responsible solution to our transportation crisis to ensure that our community receive the attention it deserves. Number three, right to work, voted on August the 7th. The voters of Missouri went to the polls and voiced their opinion on right to work decisively. I intend to represent the people who elected me, and I will not vote for right to work. Education. This past session, Missouri's Republican-led legislature fully funded the foundation formula. K through 12 education was funded at a record high level. I commend the legislators' efforts and intend to continue to work for our local schools. In closing, I have the experience, the knowledge, the education to bring the constituents of Washington and Jefferson counties a stronger representation using my skills that I have acquired as a certified public accountant and county collector, and I look forward for the opportunity to work with the Jefferson and Washington County business and governmental leaders to put the district in a position for strong economic growth. And, one other thing I'd like to add, I live in Washington County, and the district is spread between two counties. The opportunity for growth is in Jefferson County, for the main growth, because you have the infrastructure, you have the roads, you have the interstate and the Port Authority now, rail lines in order to facilitate economic growth. So, I will work just as hard as any of the other representatives in this county to work for economic development. So I am Mike McGurl, and I'm asking for your vote on November the 6th. And I would also like to thank Jefferson College and the Jefferson County Growth Association for giving me this opportunity to tell you who I am and what I believe we can accomplish together. Thank you.
We now turn our attention to the state auditor's race. We have one candidate with us tonight, Republican Sandra McDowell, who is going to be represented by Bonnie Safa. Ms. McDowell has most recently served as State's Director of Enforcement for the Securities Division in the Secretary of State's office. Her team has prosecuted large law-breaking financial institutions, winning court orders to return millions of dollars to individual Missouri investors and residents. She has also worked as an Assistant Attorney General and practices law in the private sector. Ms. McDowell is a veteran of the United States Air Force. Speaking on her behalf, please welcome Bonnie Safa.
Good evening. I would first like to thank all of the sponsors that made this event possible tonight, and to our gracious hosts and to all of you in the audience. Thank you for being here. As already stated, I'm representing Sandra McDowell, who is the Republican candidate for State Auditor. Sandra is running for this office in order to prosecute fraud, stop waste, and put Missourians' interests first. Her entire goal is to ensure that Missourians' valuable tax dollars are spent wisely and are stretched to their furthest extent. Let me tell you a little bit about Sandra. She is not a politician, although she has spent the entirety of her career being a defender for the people. As a tech sergeant in the U.S. Air Force for 6 years, and then serving in the reserves for an additional 2 years, she has dedicated her life, energy, and resources to the service of America's citizens. Throughout those 8 years, she saw firsthand who pays for our freedom, and it is not the politicians, it is the people. Following her service, she worked as an assistant attorney general. There, she managed teams of accountants and investigators to successfully go after all of those who have robbed Missourians, making them pay back in full what they had stolen from the people. As the Director of Enforcement for the Securities Division in the Secretary of State's office, she prosecuted crooks, took on big companies, con artists, and those in power to win court orders so that millions of dollars could be returned to individual Missouri residents and investors. Once again, she was fighting for the people. Her most important role, however, has been being a mother to her 5 children. She has twin 5-year-olds, twin 4-year-olds, and 1 2-year-old. She's clearly an overachiever. Through this role, she takes up the imperative responsibility to raise up the next generation of those who will also seek to make Missouri the strongest and most prosperous place that it can be, while never losing sight of the people that make Missouri great. Sandra understands the importance of fully employing the powers of the state auditor's office. She understands that Missourians need someone who will be exceptional stewards of their tax dollars, someone who promotes the individual's rights to protect and secure their futures. On day 1 as the people's auditor, and from there on out, she will establish a new standard of transparency that is unprecedented in state government. Under her plan, anywhere that a state dollar is spent, the state auditor will have the right to audit and the right to bring to light exactly where the people's dollars are going. She will strive to make every single dollar accountable and every single dollar work as hard as possible for the people that she serves. To prosecute fraud, to stop waste, and to put the people first once again. This is what Sandra McDowell wants for her own children. This is what she wants for all of Missourians. And this is why she wants to be your next state auditor. Thank you.
We now move to the Circuit Judge race, Division 4, and our first candidate is the Democrat Jacob Costello. A longtime resident of Jefferson County, Mr. Costello has been a Jefferson County Assistant Prosecuting Attorney for the past 7 years, handling a wide range of felony cases. Prior to this, he spent several years in private practice, focusing on civil litigation, trusts, and estates and criminal law. Mr. Costello is also a former volunteer for the Boys Club. Please welcome Jacob Costello.
I'd also like to start by thanking the Jefferson County Growth Association, JCFF, all the sponsors, and Jefferson College for hosting this event. As mentioned in the introduction, I think it was, I spent my early college career here at Jeffco. While working on my associate's degree, I was awarded a scholarship to UMSL, where I earned my bachelor's in history. I then went to St. Louis University School of Law, where I graduated with my law degree in 2003. My parents and grandparents didn't have the opportunity to go to college, so I'll always be grateful for the chance that I was given, and that really took off right here in Jefferson County. I began practicing law shortly after graduating, and I focused on general practice. Most of the cases that I handled were trusts and estates, some wrongful death cases, personal injury, breach of contract, some probate cases, general civil litigation. I did this for about 8 years. A little over 7 years ago, I accepted a job at the prosecuting attorney's office right here in Hillsborough. I handle a wide range of felony cases now, from assaults to burglaries, robberies, murder, and drug cases. Underlying almost all the cases that I handle is some drug issue. People steal, they rob, they commit burglaries, all for drug money. As a prosecutor, I spent a lot of time making recommendations to the court on how are we going to deal with certain defendants. How are we going to prevent the person from acting in the same way that got them there initially? Sometimes this can be accomplished with treatment courts and probation for certain first-time offenders. I believe that this can work if the defendant actively participates in this and takes advantage of the treatment. Sometimes, though, this doesn't work. When the charges warrant and the circumstances justify it, people don't take their probation seriously. As a prosecutor, I do recommend harsher sentences with prison terms. I will continue to hold people accountable if I'm elected. Over the past 15 years, I've been in front of a lot of judges. I've paid attention to the qualities of judges who make a positive impact in their communities and those that promote confidence in the judiciary. Good judges are knowledgeable in the law, they're hardworking, and they're willing to learn. I believe that my background, half of which is in civil litigation and the other half in criminal, provides the knowledge base and experience that would be required for someone seeking Division 4. The cases that I've been handling for the past 15 years are the same types of cases that Division 4 currently handles. Good judges are also open-minded and fair. For anyone who's ever sat on a jury, if it was a criminal case, you heard an instruction that was read, and that instruction is keep an open mind until you've heard all the evidence and the case is given to you to decide. If you sat on a civil case, there's a corresponding instruction for those, and that instruction is justice requires that you keep an open mind about the case until the parties have had the opportunity to present their cases to you. Our jurors are instructed to do this. Our judges should do the same, and I will if I'm elected. In addition to being knowledgeable and open-minded, the best judges are professional and they're respectful. With the exception of weddings and adoptions, most people who come to court are not at their best. Their loved one may have been a victim in a crime. Maybe their loved one is accused of a crime. Maybe they're getting divorced. Regardless of the circumstances, they need a judge who's going to listen to them with respect. Jefferson County deserves judges that have the temperament to listen to whatever difficult situation arises and to do their job in the most professional manner possible. I've been appearing in court on an almost daily basis for several years. I personally try to treat everyone with the respect they deserve, and I will continue to do so if I'm elected. People have asked me, why do you want this job? Why are you running? The simple answer is because I care about this community. This is where I live. This is where my family is. I've spent the last 7 years in the prosecutor's office trying to protect our community and stand up for victims. I want to continue serving the people of this community. I also believe that I'm the most qualified person running for this position. I ask for your consideration and your support on November 6th. Thank you, and if anyone has any questions after this, feel free to, you can stop me out there, you can go to my website, you can send me a question through the website or through Facebook, and I'm more than happy to answer as best I can. Thank you.
The Republican candidate for Circuit Judge Division 4 is Brenda Stacy. Judge Stacy has served 4 years as an Associate Circuit Judge in Division 11 of Jefferson County's 23rd Circuit Court. Prior to serving as an Associate Judge, Ms. Stacy practiced law privately through her own firm, handling criminal and civil cases in both state and federal courts. She has served as a guardian ad litem, advocating for the best interests of children, and as a mediator, creating unique solutions in contested custody cases. Judge Stacy started the Women's Bar Association of Jefferson County. She serves as a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Merrimack Arnold Elks Club, and the Arnold Chamber of Commerce. Please welcome Judge Brenda Stacy.
Well, my bio kind of said a lot of what I'm going to say, so you stole my thunder, Dr. Comiskey. But I do, like everyone else, I want to thank, one, Jefferson College and JCGA for hosting this event, and also everybody that's here and listening and watching. Take the time to be informed. I think we all appreciate it. I'm Brenda Stacy. I'm the Republican candidate for Circuit Court Judge here for Division 4 here in Jefferson County. As a longtime resident of Jefferson County, I embrace the conservative values of our community. I serve our community as a member of the Elks, the Daughters of the American Revolution. I started the Jefferson County Women's Bar Association, and I try to give back as much as I can to our community through these activities, as well as activities with my church. I'm invested in this community. My oldest daughter graduated from Fox. She now attends Jefferson College, hoping to go to UMSL in a nursing program. My youngest starts Fox High School next year. So currently, as Dr. Comiskey said, I'm in my bio that stole all my thunder. I serve our community as the Associate Circuit Judge in Division 11. I'm running for the Circuit Court Judge in Division 4. A Circuit Court Judge is an important position. There's only 6 in our entire county. Circuit Court Judges hear civil and criminal cases. And often when you think about court cases, we think about criminal cases because we see TV shows like Law and Order, Criminal Intent, stuff like that. But if you think about your friends and your family who have experienced and had to go to court, most of the time that's going to be in a civil case, whether it's a landlord case, a family case, a contract case, stuff like that. That's the most of our cases. The vast majority are civil. And I know my opponent talked about his experience in criminal law and civil law, but I have experience in criminal law and civil law. I have experience in state court and federal court practice. I have experience as a lawyer and a judge. And a circuit court judge needs to be experienced. It needs to be an experienced judge. It's not a position for somebody with no judicial experience. I've represented clients in criminal and civil cases. I've been a mediator. So for the past 6 or 7 years, part of my job has been fashioning unique and creative solutions to individual problems. As a judge, I've presided over criminal cases and civil cases, over bench trials and jury trials. Currently, I'm assigned twice the number of family law cases than any other judge. I'm the most experienced family law judge that we have in Jefferson County. So I've had all the types of cases that are assigned to Division 4, and I'm ready to do that job. Part of the experience that you need, I believe it needs to be a circuit court judge, needs to be experienced. As a lawyer, your job is to seek justice for your client, to bring to light a client's problems and present that to the court for a solution. But as a judge, your job is to create that solution within the law so that you can resolve the conflict as best as you can, and that takes experience. I have that experience, and I can step into this job without any learning curve. From my practice, I understand the importance of an efficient docket. I respect each victim's right to justice, each party's need for a timely resolution, and I understand that as parties wait, they incur attorney fees, and the longer your case is litigated, the more expensive and emotionally taxing that is. So upon being elected to Division 4, I'll continue to handle the civil and family cases that I currently have that ensures a timely resolution and avoids delay for those parties and their families. And cases assigned in Division 4, I have the experience to minimize the delay of justice and resolution for those parties and victims with matters currently pending there. So thank you again for your time. Once again, my name is Brenda Stacy, and I'm asking for your vote on November 6th and for Circuit Judge in Division 4.
I hope she doesn't prosecute on plagiarism when I stole her material. Again, you're listening to the Jefferson County Growth Association Legislative Forum here at Jefferson College. Our sponsors tonight are Dobbs Tire and Auto, Govero Land Services, Comtree, Enterprise Bank, Fireworks City, and Lane Consolidated Services. We're brought to you tonight on KJF Radio and JCTV, and you can always catch us on our associated social media. We're now moving to our last category of the night, Clerk of the Circuit Court. Our first speaker tonight is Republican Mike Reuter. He's the incumbent and currently serves as a Circuit Clerk of the 23rd Judicial Circuit. A resident of Imperial, Mr. Reuter was previously employed as a Jefferson County Sheriff's Deputy for 10 years. He also served for 8 years in the U.S. Army. Mr. Reuter volunteers his time on many professional and civic organizations, including the National Association for Court Management, the National Association of Court Managers, Missouri Circuit Clerk Association, Arnold Rotary, the Republican Club, the Pachyderm Club, the NRA, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars and the American Legion. Please welcome Mr. Mike Reuter.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank Jefferson College and JCGA for hosting this forum, and to KJFF for providing coverage for those who could not attend. I'm honored to have served you as Circuit Clerk of Jefferson County in the 23rd Judicial in the state of Missouri for nearly 4 years. I wanted to thank you, the voters, for allowing me to serve you. My top priority as Circuit Clerk is to provide you with great customer service. Office as easily as possible. In addition, I work hard to make the office as efficient and cost-effective as possible. The Circuit Clerk's office is basically the keeper of the record. Because of this, I also work to keep your court records accurate, safe, and available to public use. If they're closed by law, I can't allow people to see those. Great customer service is created by treating both customers, in this case, the public and the employees, right. To increase customer service, I made it a priority to personally meet with members of the public and local attorneys with unusual concerns of those who just want to meet me. I also started an employee appreciation program where I regularly and publicly recognize employees for their great job. This provides an incentive for deputy clerks to provide a great customer service and excel at their job. I increased training opportunities for the deputy clerks. Prior to me taking office, only a few employees were allowed to attend classes. I expanded the number of employees who offered the training outside of the office and to set up training schedules to cross-train the office. Part of providing a great customer service is making sure employees have the tools to be successful.
Great customer service is also created by identifying and then meeting those customers' needs. When I first started as the circuit clerk, I noticed many people lost and confused when walking throughout the courthouse. I helped them by adding an informational office just as you come into the courthouse. Here, an employee helps visitors to find courtrooms and offices located inside of the courthouse. This helps ease the tension of visiting the courthouse. I also found that many people had placed their hard-earned money to be held by the courts in escrow and never received that money back after their cases had ended. I made it a high priority to identify and return those unclaimed monies. To date, this office has returned over $100,000 in unclaimed money to the rightful owners. I also noticed that there was no place in Hillsborough for you to get a U.S. passport. Last year, I added that service, so if you're in Hillsborough and you need a passport, come to the office and we'll get you one. For many people, the only time that you have contact with the courts is when you are summoned for jury duty. To help make serving for a jury duty easier, this week we've implemented the system called Show Me Jury. Show Me Jury saves taxpayers both time and money. This online system helps potential jurors update contact information, request recusals, or postponements of their service, and check the status of their request. Also, jurors can set up a text or email notification so that they can get the information related to the jury service. For people without easy computer access, our office supplies free access to the system, the members of the public, and for those who prefer to continue to use the paper system. They can call the office, and then we will mail them the jury questionnaires. As I mentioned before, the circuit clerk is the keeper of the records. This circuit has 12 court divisions, 6 circuit court, and 6 associate. Each of these divisions produce a lot of paperwork. The circuit clerk's office manages this paperwork, these records. If we don't process the paperwork in a timely manner, or if we don't process the paperwork correctly, these mistakes can cost you time, money, and for some criminal cases, your liberties. Finally, when I took office, I found rooms all over the courthouse completely filled with historical court records in paper files. Since you elected me, the office has digitized over 100,000 files. This makes it more easier for you to access these files and to frees up space in the courthouse, which can be used for more productive ways. My opponent may tell you she's worked in the circuit clerk's office longer, but has been nearly 20 years since she has worked there. Although she is a nice lady, she does not know our system, and she's not more qualified. I make my responsibility as a circuit clerk very seriously and want to continue to provide you with great customer service and effective and efficient leadership. My name is Mike Reuter. I'm asking for your vote on November the 6th for circuit clerk. Thank you.
Our last candidate tonight is Dorothy Stafford, who will be represented by Joe Paulette. Ms. Stafford served as the Jefferson County Auditor from 1994 to 2014. A lifelong resident of Jefferson County, Ms. Stafford began working in the circuit clerk's office shortly after graduation and remained there for 20 years. During that period, she worked in several positions, learning all aspects of the office. She was ultimately promoted to Supervisor of Accounting, a position that reports directly to the circuit clerk. On behalf of Dorothy Stafford, please welcome Joe Paulette.
Good evening. Please be advised that Dorothy Stafford sends her regrets. She is unable to attend this event due to a personal scheduling conflict. My name is Joe Paulette, and I've been allowed the honor of representing Ms. Stafford for the purpose of tonight's information sharing. I recently retired after 38 years of service to Jefferson County as a member of the staff for the juvenile office. During that time, I've worked closely with Ms. Stafford, and as a result, I've developed a high level of respect for Ms. Stafford, not only as a friend, but also as a person of integrity who has contributed to the stability of Jefferson County through her years of hardworking public service. Ms. Stafford has given 20 years of service to Jefferson County working in the Circuit Clerk's office. This service commenced in the early 1970s, and as a result, Ms. Stafford has accrued a fine understanding of the inner workings of the Circuit Clerk's office. In 1994, Ms. Stafford continued her public service following her election to the position of County Auditor. Ms. Stafford was subsequently re-elected as the County Auditor for a second, third, fourth, and fifth term. Ms. Stafford is asking for your support for the position of Circuit Clerk. Please be assured that Ms. Stafford is not seeking to push or to control any political agenda or to boost her resume. The purpose of Ms. Stafford seeking election to the office of Circuit Clerk is to continue her history of dedicated service to the citizens and families of Jefferson County. Now, the office of Circuit Clerk is an important component of the court systems in each county. Circuit Clerk is the caretaker for the operation of the courts and acts as the liaison to the public regarding judicial matters by responding to inquiries about fines, payments, and court appearances. The Circuit Clerk is also responsible for maintaining accurate records of cases for future proceedings as needed. Ms. Stafford is a proven stickler for details, which in my opinion would make her a stellar Circuit Clerk for Jefferson County. Now, on a personal note, I believe that Ms. Stafford is a true example of what a public servant should be. I observed her dedication while she was a member of the Circuit Clerk staff, and I observed her dedication as the County Auditor. Throughout her years of service, Ms. Stafford has displayed outstanding skills in managing funding, resources, and personnel. This was accomplished through the strict adherence to policies and procedures to protect and benefit Jefferson County and through her excellent communication skills. It is this seasoned and professional approach which Ms. Stafford will bring to the position of Circuit Clerk. I encourage the residents and families of Jefferson County to join me in supporting this dedicated and hardworking public servant, Dorothy Stafford, for the position of Circuit Clerk. And on behalf of Dorothy Stafford, I would like to express sincere appreciation for this opportunity to share this information with you. Thank you.
Whew. Well, all I can do is say thank you, Growth Association, thank you, KJEF, thank you, JCTV, thank you, Lisa, our timekeeper, thank you, Lisa, my assistant, everybody. I hope you learned a lot tonight. We covered a whole lot of ground, but most importantly, remember this, get out and vote on November 6th. Thank you and good night.